Some doors are meant to remain closed. Some secrets are buried for good reason. And some storms bring more than just rain. This is a story of Maya Chen, an inheritance that cost her everything. Maya Chen's sedan crawled up the winding dirt road like a wounded animal seeking shelter. She'd driven for 12 hours straight from the city, running from a life that had collapsed around her. Lost job, broken engagement, empty bank account. The only thing standing between her and homelessness was a Victorian house that loomed ahead, weathered and isolated, left to her by a great-aunt she'd met only once. The house watched her approach with windows like dead eyes, its paint peeling like diseased skin. Maya had inherited more than just a house that autumn day. She had inherited a hunger that had been waiting 70 years to feed again. Old Man Harris emerged from the field across the road, his weathered face creased with worry that went deepening concern for a stranger's welfare. He moved with the urgency of a man who'd seen this scene play out before. Maya rolled down her window as he approached, his words tumbling out like a confession. He asked if she was sure about staying, mentioned that the house had history, bad history. He told her storms hit different here, that some houses believe in their occupants whether the occupants believed in them or not. Maya dismissed his concerns with the confidence of someone who'd never encountered anything that couldn't be explained by logic and reason. She wasn't superstitious. She told him. Free rent was free rent. The old man's words would echo in Maya's mind when the walls began to breathe, when the storms came calling. When she realized belief was irrelevant, the house had already chosen her. Harris backed away, shaking his head, leaving Maya alone with her inheritance and the approaching dusk. Night fell like a curtain drawn by an impatient hand. Maya unpacked her meager belongings while the house creaked and settled around her, each sound like a joint popping or a bone shifting. The wind picked up as she worked, and the first drops of rain began tapping the windows like fingernails seeking entry. Thunder crashed overhead with the sound of the world splitting open. The lights flickered once, twice, then held barely. Maya froze in the sudden silence that followed, listening to something that shouldn't have been there. Every old house has sounds. Settling foundations, expanding wood, mice in the walls. But this house whispered back when she listened, as if acknowledging her presence with something approaching hunger. Strange scraping echoed from within the walls. Not the scurrying of rodents, but something deliberate, purposeful. Maya's breath began to fog an air that had turned suddenly impossibly cold. Lightning illuminated the living room in stark black and white, freezing everything in that electric moment like photograph. And in that photograph, Maya saw it, a faint rectangular outline on the wall, where no door should be, no door could be. She blinked. Darkness returned. Another flash painted the room silver again, and the outline was clearer now, like pencil marks drawn by an invisible hand. Maya stared at the wall, her rational mind offering explanations. Trick of light, water damage, old wallpaper seams. But her primitive brain, the part that remembered when humans huddled around fires while things prowled the darkness, whispered a different truth. The door had been waiting in the walls for 7 decades, waiting for the right storm, the right soul, the right hunger to match its own. When morning came with its lying sunlight, Maya searched the wall frantically. She found nothing. Perfect wallpaper, no seams, no marks. Her hands traced every inch of surface, pressing and searching for some sign of what she'd seen. Daylight is a liar. It makes monsters into shadows and nightmares into bad dreams. But the door remembered what Maya saw, and it remembered her. That second night brought no storm, but sleep became a luxury Maya couldn't afford. Whispers seemed to seep through the walls, too faint to understand, too clear to ignore. Children's laughter echoed from empty rooms. Footsteps wandered halls where no one walked. A sound like fingernails dragging across would play a rhythm she almost recognized. The house was introducing itself, room by room, whisper by whisper, teaching her to listen, preparing her for what was coming. Maya spent the following day at the town library, scrolling through decades of microfilm with growing unease. Headlines flashed by like warnings from the past. Local family vanishes after storm from 1953. Child found dead after freak weather from 1927. The storm door legend from 1978. Every generation, the storms came. Every generation, someone disappeared. The pattern was perfect, mathematical, hungry. She found her gray-tanned obituary tucked between advertisements for long-dead businesses. Helen Chen, 84, found dead and home after severe thunderstorm. No signs of forced entry. Appeared to have aged 20 years overnight. Maya confronted Harris at the general store, demanding answers about something called the storm door. The old man paled when she spoke the words, as if she'd invoked something that shouldn't be named in daylight. He told her about doors, how some lead to other rooms, others to other worlds. But that door, he whispered, it leads to hunger itself. He spoke of Maya's great-aunt, who thought such talk ridiculous right up until they found her 3 days after the storm, drained of something essential, aged beyond her years. Curiosity is a beautiful disease. It spreads to the mind like infection, making logic sound like cowardice and caution feel like surrender. The weather reports began issuing warnings. Severe thunderstorm warning. Category 4 system approaching. Maya boarded her windows methodically, practically, but kept one uncovered, the wall where she'd seen the door. She told herself she was being scientific, investigative, but her hands trembled with more than fear as the barometric pressure dropped and the first rumble of thunder echoed across the valley. Part of her, the part she didn't want to acknowledge, wanted to see it again. The storm hit like divine wrath made manifest. Wind shrieked around the house's corners with voices that sounded almost human. Rain hammered the roof like fists demanding entry. Lightning turned night into a stuttering sequence of daylight and darkness, each flash revealing the world remade by chaos. Maya positioned herself before the wall, watching and waiting. With each lightning strike, the door outline grew stronger, clearer, more real. What had been suggestion became certainty, then became impossible, then became truth. Finally, it was there, a wooden door, ancient and scarred, glowing with phosphorescent light that had nothing to do with electricity and everything to do with hunger. Reality bent around that door like light around a black hole. The laws of physics became suggestions. The walls remembered what they used to hide. Maya approached as if hypnotized, her hand reaching for the handle. Cold iron worn smooth by countless touches over decades. The door opened with sound like the earth exhaling, revealing stone steps that descended into absolute darkness. Every person who had opened that door thought they were first. Every person was wrong. The stairs were worn smooth by 70 years of footsteps. Footsteps going down, never coming back up. Maya grabbed a flashlight and descended into the hungry dark. The basement stretched impossibly far, larger than the house above, larger than the laws of architecture would allow. The walls were carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly, geometric patterns that seemed to shift and writhe when observed peripherally. Maya's flashlight beam revealed a detritus of decades, a child's rocking horse, worn smooth by invisible hands. Family photographs with faces scratched out by fingernails or something sharper. Diary pages scattered across the stone floor like fallen leaves. The chamber was a stomach, a collecting place. Each generation's hunger feeding the next, growing stronger, more patient, more clever. Footsteps echoed from the darkness beyond Maya's light. Not the sharp click of heels or the solid thump of boots, but something softer, more deliberate. Children giggled in the shadows, their laughter wrong in ways she couldn't articulate. Whispers carried on air that tasted of copper and decay, speaking in languages that predated civilization. Maya called out, her voice swallowed by the darkness. The sound stopped immediately, replaced by silence, so complete it had weight and presence. Silence in that place wasn't the absence of sound. It was the presence of attention. Something was listening. Something was learning. Something was deciding. By flashlight, Maya read the scattered diary pages that littered the floor like breadcrumbs in a fairy tale. Day 3. It feeds during storms. The electricity in the air. The fear in our hearts. Each storm makes it stronger. Day 7. Thomas is gone. The door took him when I wasn't watching. I can hear him calling from somewhere deeper, somewhere that shouldn't exist. Day 12. I understand now. We're not prisoners down here. We're groceries, being kept fresh until the feeding. The diary was both warning and invitation. Every soul trapped below had tried to warn the next. Every warning became a roadmap for the hungry darkness that waited in the deep places. Maya turned to leave, but the door above slammed shut with the finality of a coffin lid. She climbed the worn stairs and pushed against solid stone. No door existed on this side. No way out, no escape, no hope. The house had been patient for 70 years. It could afford to be patient a few hours more while Maya exhausted herself against the inevitable. In the darkness beyond her failing flashlight, shapes began to move. Human shaped but wrong. Stretched in some places, compressed in others, emptied of something essential. A child's voice echoed through the chamber, sweet and terrible. Play with us. Stay with us. Feed with us. More voices joined the chorus. All the consumed, all the harvested, all the fed upon. Feed the storm. Feed the hunger. Feed us. Feed yourself to us. They had been people once. Neighbors and strangers, children and adults. Travelers who took the wrong road in the wrong weather. Now they were something else entirely. Something that remembered being human, but had forgotten why it mattered. Maya's flashlight died, plunging her into absolute darkness. In that blackness, she felt cold fingers brushing her face, her arms, her throat, testing her resistance, measuring her fear, sampling her essence. Thunder boomed overhead like the heartbeat of an angry god. Suddenly, impossibly, light appeared. The door had returned, crackling with electrical energy. Maya bolted up the stairs as shadows grabbed at her feet with fingers that felt like ice and desperation. She burst through the opening and slammed the door behind her. It faded like morning mist, leaving only perfect wall. She had escaped, but escape was an illusion. The house had tasted her fear now, sampled her soul like a wine connoisseur testing vintage. She was marked, chosen, owned. Maya researched with the desperation of the condemned seeking reprieve. Land records, death certificates, newspaper archives, all revealed the same terrible pattern emerging like a photograph in developing solution. Every 20 years. Always during the worst storm of the season. Always one person vanishing completely, leaving behind only questions and grieving families. 1953. Thomas Garrett, age 8, vanished during Hurricane Carol. 1973. Sarah Mills, age 34, disappeared in the Thanksgiving storm. 1993. Robert Chen, Maya's great-uncle, taken by the blizzard of 93. 2013. Helen Chen, Maya's great-aunt, consumed by Hurricane Sandy's fury. The house didn't feed randomly. It fed systematically, strategically. It had learned over decades that family bloodline provided the richest sustenance. Love made the meat tender. Connection made the soul easy to digest. Maya confronted the townspeople with her discoveries, but found only guilt and resignation. Harris and the others admitted what she'd already suspected. They knew about the disappearances, had always known. They tried to warn newcomers, they claimed, but warnings were just ritual now, performed to ease conscience, not to save lives. The waitress at the diner, her face aged by more than years, explained the arithmetic of survival. Better one life every 20 years than the alternative. When the house didn't feed, the storms didn't stop. They grew bigger, hungrier, more destructive, eventually taking the entire town instead of just one sacrifice. Survival makes philosophers of cowards and murderers of the moral. The town had made their choice long ago, and Maya was simply the latest price of their peace. Weather reports screamed increasingly desperate warnings. Unprecedented storm system approaching. Category 5 hurricane. Seek shelter immediately. This storm is unlike anything on record. Maya could have run. Should have run. But the house was in her blood now, literally. It had tasted her, and that taste was a leash that stretched across continents. There was nowhere far enough to escape what she had become part of. She drove back to the house as storm clouds gathered like an army of the damned. This storm dwarfed all others. Lightning didn't flash but burned constantly, turned the world into a negative photograph of itself. Wind tore shingles from roofs and bent trees like grass. The very air seemed to scream. Some storms are weather. Some storms are weapons. This storm was an appetite given form, arriving to collect what was owed. Maya stood in the living room, waiting. She no longer feared the door's appearance. She anticipated it with something approaching hunger of her own. The door didn't fade into existence this time. It exploded into reality, massive now, stretching from floor to ceiling, pulsing with light that had nothing to do with electricity and everything to do with satisfaction. Maya approached like a sleepwalker, no longer fighting what she'd always known would happen. The door swung open, revealing them clearly for the first time. The shapes below, dozens of them, all the missing, all the fed upon. They weren't threatening now. They were welcoming. They reached up to her with arms that remembered embracing loved ones, voices that sang lullabies to children who had grown up and grown old and died natural deaths in the world above. Hunger doesn't stay hungry forever. Eventually, it makes you hungry too. Eventually, you stop fighting the appetite and start feeding it. Maya descended willingly this time, each step easier than the last. The shapes embraced her like family, because they were family, generations of the chosen, decades of the harvested. Above, the door slammed shut with finality. The storm immediately began to calm, its purpose fulfilled, its appetite satisfied for another 20 years. The house sighed with satisfaction, its hunger sated. Maya joined the chorus below, her voice adding to the eternal whisper in the walls, helping to call the next chosen when their time came. Morning brought brilliant sunshine and the illusion of normalcy. Harris and the sheriff found the house empty, peaceful, showing no signs of struggle or violence. Just another disappearance to file away and forget. The town would mourn Maya Chen for exactly as long as it took to forget her name. They had 70 years of practice at forgetting, at moving on, at preparing for the next sacrifice. Within a month, the house went up for sale. A young couple found a listing online, enchanted by its Victorian charm and affordable price. The real estate listing mentioned its rich family heritage and deep historical roots. They laughed as they planned their future in their perfect new home, never noticing the faint sound of thunder rumbling in the distance despite the clear blue sky. Every 20 years, the house would find new owners. Every 20 years, the storms would come calling. Every 20 years, the door would remember how to peer and the hunger would remember how to feed. In the basement that doesn't exist, Maya's voice joined the eternal whisper, barely audible but perfectly clear. When the storms come, don't open the door, don't open the door, don't. But her warning, like all the others, sounded more like an invitation, a promise, a welcome. Some doors are meant to remain closed. Some secrets are buried for good reason. And some storms bring more than just rain. They bring hunger. And hunger always finds a way to knock.